All right, welcome to this lesson where we're going to begin designing our first UI kit. So what we want to do is go to File, New here in Photoshop, and I'm going to call this Soft GUI. And the width I'm going to make 860 by 600, and this happens just to fill at 100% my viewable area without any type of scroll. So you can use whatever fits your screen. It doesn't really matter. So we'll hit OK, and I'm going to hit Control 1 to get to 100%. All right, so I'm going to give it a background. And by the way, if you went to File, New, I have my background content set at transparent. So that's usually by default it's set at white. So just a tip there. I'm going to take the foreground color here, and I'm going to use 6 E's right there for the hex code. And I'm going to fill that in. All right, so basically what we want to do to begin is get out our rounded rectangular tool. And I'm going to leave the radius at 3. All right, so I'm just going to left click and drag, and I'm going to hold Alt while doing so, and roughly around that size. All right, so now what we want to do is get our layer styles working. So we're going to work a lot with the layer styles for these initial buttons here. So I'm going to double click on the right side of the layer, and we're going to get started with a gradient overlay. And then we're going to click on the gradient editor, and we could see that the black corresponds right here. So we'll double click this, and we want this to be right around there in terms of lightness. So B0, B0, B0 for that hex code. We'll hit OK. And then we'll come over here to the white, and we're going to color pick the background color and then just make it slightly darker. Right around there is good. So that is DE, DE, DE. We'll hit OK and then hit OK. So that is our first layer style. We're going to add a couple more here. So we're going to do an inner shadow, but we're going to change this significantly in the default appearance. So we want to go to blend mode, just hit normal. We'll change the color to white, hit OK, and we will change the angle to 90, and then we'll take the size down to 1, or 0 rather, and then we'll change the distance to 1. So I'm not sure if you can see it too well in this video, but it gives us a very basically hard to find 1 pixel white border up there, and that helps with the idea of there being a light source at the top. All right, so now what we want to do is create a drop shadow, and we're going to edit this quite a bit too. So let's change the blend mode to normal, and the opacity is going to be quite low, but I'm going to leave it right here so we can see it. And this as well will be 90, and we're going to basically take the size just down a tad bit, around 4, and the opacity down to about 12, just so we can barely see it. All right, so I'm going to hit OK, and basically this will serve as the regular button state. And so now we're going to add some text here. So when we take the type tool, usually people, when you get some text that could be changed, you just left click and you type in. Well, a good idea is to drag out the entire width, left click and drag, and then we can center it and then put it in our text. We'll just call this button. And I'm using a font called Source Sans Pro. It's available for free, and the link is in the description below this video. And we're going to change this color. I'm going to make it not quite black, but more around this gray color, 57, 57, 57. We'll hit OK, and I'm going to change the size here. I'm going to try 28, and I think that works well. All right, so this is our first button. So what we want to do is duplicate this. So first we want to organize our layers. We'll call this button background. All you have to do is double click that to get that up. And this is the layer text. So now what we want to do is hold both of them, hold shift, select both, hit Control G, and we'll group them up. And we'll call this button regular. Okay, now we want to duplicate this. So real quickly, I'm going to go over here to edit, and we want to go to preferences, keyboard shortcuts rather. And there's a few that I want to set just for this tutorial. Real quickly, basically we have the shortcuts for application menu. That's where we want to be. We want to go to layer, and we want to come down until we find copy layer style and paste layer style. And I set mine at Control-Shift-C and then Control-Shift and V. Okay, and then also for duplicate layer and duplicate group, I have Control-Shift and D. So you can set those however you wish. All right, so I'm going to duplicate that, and we'll call this button hover. Hit OK. And I'm going to deselect that auto select if that was set for you. And hold Shift and just drag it over here to the right. And now what we want to do is modify the button background layer style. So I'll just double click over here to bring that up. And I'm going to edit the gradient overlay. We'll change the, let me move this out of the way. We'll change this one to a real light gray, E4, E4, E4. We'll hit OK. Change this one to white. We'll hit OK, and then hit OK. And then finally, we'll go to inner shadow, and we're going to change this value to -90, just so we get this 1 pixel white horizontal border. We'll hit OK, and that's good. And then finally, we'll duplicate this for a third time, and we'll call this button pressed. We'll hit OK. We'll open that up, and then we'll finally adjust this layer. Double click on the FX, bring layer styles up, and we will go ahead and change. First, let me go back. Sorry, we'll push that over. Make sure we have everything. We'll double click on the background, and we'll change the gradient here to something quite a bit darker. So we want to go down roughly right around there. And that's BE, BE, BE. Hit OK. And then we'll change this to be slightly darker than that. Hit OK, and then hit OK. Now what I want to do is take the inner shadow. We're going to adjust this quite a bit. So we're going to change this to a darker color right around here. We're going to change this to 90. We're going to increase the size and the distance slightly. And I'm going to take the opacity down a little bit. And come back to gradient. Take this up just a little bit lighter. Right around there. Hit OK and OK. And that's it. Okay, so in the next lesson, we're going to go ahead and edit or create some radial buttons and some checkboxes. All right, I'll see you then.